Good morning. Happy Easter. Uh, some of you may have seen me last night, but as usual, I didn't like how I sounded, so here we go again. Today I want to talk about the virus and how I think it's going to change the produce business. I think it's something that we should start to discuss. First, I'm going to do it from the supply side. Usually, springtime, so many different areas are going. There's usually a great abundance of produce, and this year was no different. Before the virus, would have been on track. Unfortunately, because of the virus, many of that supply is being dumped. I'm sure if you watch the news or you read anything, you could see and it's not only just produce; it's milk and eggs and many of the perishable items. So what does that mean going forward? Well, I could tell you one thing. For those of you who don't know, farmer is capital intensive up front, which means all the money goes into the crop up front, and you don't recoup that crop until it's sold. And many times, the profit may be in the last few loads. That being said, when the farmers are dumping now, who's to say maybe they won't plant now for the next 60 or 90 days, which usually crops 60 to 90 days, crops are many vegetable crops. So that's going to be a very big factor going forward, and it's going to affect the retail, wholesale side of this business as well. So what does the future hold? I think this may take a year for the farmers to actually get in sync again. Again, 60, 90 days, if you just lost most of your crop, what is to say that if you put in something right now, 60 days from now, we're still going to have a market? Nobody knows where this thing is going to end, right? So something to think about for the future. So again, I think this may take a year. Okay, demand. You saw what happened with demand when this virus started. Everything was cleared off the shelves. And then, as I mentioned before, you went to a lot of produce departments because our supply chain was so great. Much of the stores were empty, but produce was stacked high. Well, the good produce guys were stacking it high. I think because of what I just said on the supply side, things that you always expected to be there may not be there, or maybe not the same size that you're accustomed to. And I believe that's going to affect the produce supply chain going forward. If the crop's not there, that means the item can't be in your stores. And again, if it takes a year for the farm side to get in sync, it's going to be a while. When you talk about that with retail, you can't, if it's not available, you got to learn to sell what is available. And retail has not done a good job with that. Anybody that's listened to me, you know how I feel about retail. It's been broken for the last 30 years. And I could tell you this, I just told you farmers were dumping stuff. I want you all to go to your supermarkets and see if prices are much, much, much less than they were before this virus. I'll bet you all $1 that they're not. And that's what's wrong with retail. Here we have farmers dumping stuff because they can't sell it, and supermarkets don't change the retail prices. That is a major, major problem with our industry. Something that I would like to fix. It's just the people that run the produce, may be brilliant in business, but they're not brilliant in produce, and they just don't think these tried and true practices work, and they just think that making money, making 400% of produce is the way to go. Also with retail, I think the buyers of retail, I'll give you an example. A lot of big chain stores have basically automated buying. Computers just generates a PO and gives the order to the farmer. I don't think that's going to work going forward. Again, if the stuff's not there, you have to sell what's available. And I've used this example before. You know, retailers or large retailers only want a certain size or a certain, but that size or quality may not be there. Again, just because it looks a little different doesn't mean that the nutritional value is different, the calories are different, any of those things are different. It just, the retailers are going to have to learn how to sell produce. And to learn how to sell produce, they also have to learn how to buy produce, because that automated system may not work. So they're going to have to real produce people that really know how the markets work and what's available. I might add, those 3-week out ads may not work either, because who's going to give you an ad if there's nothing in the ground? Same thing with contracts. Go find a contract. If a guy's not, if you're not going to take it every week and not give back your load, what farmer is going to give you a contract? These are the things that I think were broken with produce for the last 30 years. I just think that the people that try to smooth out the highs and lows of produce to fit in their other business model, and I'll give you an example. You went to school and you learned that, widgets cost X, sell them for 4X, production cost is half X, and here we go. That's how you sell stuff. But in produce, red peppers cost $6.50 to pick and pack a box. Sometimes the market is 22 FOB, and sometimes the market's 4. They just try to fix that. Say, oh, let's put a profit on. It just doesn't work that way, because when they're short, prices go up, and when they're long, prices go down. And a lot of times, because it's perishable, it's below production cost. I always said this: physical delivery of a perishable commodity. You could sell that. You could sell anything, and you have to sell it with the highs and lows, with the laws of supply and demand. So I think that's all I have to say today. I'm going to put some links up. I was interviewed for the Produce Industry Podcast, also for the Packer in the last week. I was also in Produce Business Magazine. Some of the things I thought about before, as the virus is hitting, is all in their March issue. And then on a personal note, this is a tragedy, no doubt about it. But I got a lot of good things out of it. How do you like my haircut? Yeah, my 19-year-old son cut my hair today. Yeah, I couldn't stand it. My hair was getting longer and longer. And it's funny, when I was young, I had a ponytail down the middle of my back, and now my hair can't be short enough. But to that point, did you learn anything new? I mean, I love sitting around with my boys and watching my wife, we watched Ozark last night. We worked in the yard together. It's been a great, great opportunity. So again, did you learn anything new? Maybe you learned how to cook something. Maybe you took up a new hobby. I can tell you one thing. It's Easter. It's Passover. I don't know if you believe in God or not. I'm a big believer in God through personal experience. There was a time in my life I was a big believer. I wanted to be a pope when I was a kid, if you can imagine that. Yeah, I was always ambitious. And there was a time in my life I was afraid to walk into a church. I can tell you, God in my life is much better. This virus kind of put everybody on the even playing field. You found out that it's not about money, it's not about houses, cars, it's about our businesses, it's about your life. So hopefully, I always find the silver lining in every tragedy. Hopefully this is your silver lining. Maybe some people come out of this stronger than they went in, and maybe some people that thought they were strong came out a little weaker than when they came in. The idea is just to make yourself better. That's what I try to do. So remember what I always say. Love you, love the produce business. I do this because I want it to be better for all of us, all right? You take care, have a great day, love your family, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Oh, markets. I forgot to tell you about markets. Okay, I'm sorry. Here's a big factor going forward. If they're right, the IRS says they're going to have stimulus checks on the 15th for many Americans. If that's the case, I think you're going to have another boom in retail because people have not had money in a while. And when they come and they have to fill up those, they're going to buy food. So that is a very, very big factor. Also, on general markets, because the supplies now have cut probably less than half, the supply and demand equation could be about equal. So I think a lot of these cheap prices will actually be a little higher. Now, if that retail boom, and they won't, because it's all automated, they won't see it coming. But if those checks come out on the 15th, right, and people have money in the bank, by next weekend, stores are going to get cleaned out again. And then they're going to start buying. And hopefully that first check is the only one we need, and people start going back to work, and that will help us going forward. But again, now if you have high demand with no supplies, these markets could take off like rocket ships. And again, 60-day crops, 90-day crops, it's not like the machine. It's not like you learned in school with the widgets. You can't turn on the machine and pump it out. It's going to take those 60 days. So something to keep in mind. All right? Okay. Still love you. Still love the produce business. I'll see you on Wednesday. Take care. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Thank you. Bye-bye.